Hello and welcome to the simulated webinar on how to create an application record in the Reimagine Podium platform. A couple of quick notes before we proceed with the session. Firstly, a reminder that you're attending a simulated webinar that you can access on demand, allowing you to choose a time and place that best suits you to view this content. It comes complete with standard features, including a poll to check your knowledge, along with the ability to send feedback via the chat feature. You'll find a chat icon on the bottom right-hand side of your screen if you've tuned into the webinar via your desktop or laptop. If, however, you've dialed into the webinar via your mobile phone, you might not be able to see that chat function. Instead, please email your feedback and questions to the Podium Training Team inbox, which is podium.training@podium.net.au. We also further encourage you to complete watching this simulated webinar first and understand the steps prior to having a go at creating an application record in the respective eLearn. Finally, we're going to be using branded test systems for this webinar. Platform functionality does behave the same whether you're from Plan, Choice, or Fast. Now that we've got those quick notes out of the way, let's jump straight into the test system. How I'm going to be demonstrating how to create an application record for you today is in fact by originating the record from a client's page. Of course, you can, as the options suggest here on this left-hand side menu, in fact create an application from the Applications tab. We have found that it's good practice originating the application record from a client's page if they already exist, as a way to keep your data nice and clean and properly linked. So I've navigated to the Clients tab from the home page, and what you can see on my screen is a list of clients that I have recently viewed. I'm going to go ahead and click on Brian Sample's client record. You might recall Brian Sample from the case studies that you saw in previous webinars relating to creating a lead and converting a lead into a client. So here's what a client record page for Mr. Brian Sample could look like. How I'm going to create an application for him within his own record page is by navigating to the Related section. Upon clicking on the Related section on his record page, you can see I'm presented with a list of all different sorts of pieces of information about Brian. Had I already had information available on here, for instance, on his address, his income, assets, liabilities, etc., they would display in a list here. I don't yet have that, but that is to say I could again go back into his client record to fill that information in, which is different to how you may currently be adding information on your client in Podium, namely from the application page within Sales Tools. As you can see, I've scrolled further down along this page of Brian Sample's record, and I can see that there is an applications section. And what I'm going to do is create his application from here. I'm going to click on the New button, and when I do that, a pop-up window appears prompting me to select which type of application I would like to add onto the system for him. I'm going to go ahead and select Residential Loan and click Next. I'm now presented with a separate pop-up window with a lot more fields to fill, basically to start to define that application record which we're going to add to system for him. So I'm just going to work from left to right here on this page. I'll start off by naming Brian Sample's application name. And what I'm going to do is follow a naming convention that we recommend. You absolutely don't need to follow it if you have a different naming convention that you use to keep records in your system. But we do find that with the approach I'm about to demonstrate you allows users to identify an application much more efficiently, especially if they're looking at records for clients who have multiple loans on the database. So this application naming convention looks a little like this. We start off by putting in the client's last name, followed by the time when the application is being put through. So I'm going to put in a month and a year here. I'm then going to follow that with the loan amount that the client is requesting. And then note down the type of application record that we're putting through. And finally, the primary purpose for this loan. Moving along, I can see that the client name field, which has been marked in red along with multiple other fields that are mandatory, has already been pre-populated, for the simple reason that we originated the application record from Brian Sample's client record page, therefore it automatically knows to link to him. So that's all done. I'll go ahead and update the status, and for this exercise, I'm going to move the status for this application at Discovery. Recalling the case study for Brian Sample, he was wanting to purchase an investment property, so I'll go ahead and select that as the primary purpose. And although we don't yet have a confirmed settlement date for this loan, I can still put an indicative one in and update that at a later time. There's two ways I can go about entering in a date in Podium when it comes to date fields. I can choose to type them in manually, as you can see I'm about to do now. Or, as you can see, the calendar function has also automatically expanded when you click into this field. So as an alternative to typing the information in, I can just navigate to the month and the year that I'm wanting to put down as a settlement date, select the date, and that will automatically populate. Now, I don't have any other information pertaining to these fields here, so I'm going to leave them alone for the meantime. But what I do want to do is add a brief description for this application record. One that's going to help to jog my memory if I do want to look back on this application record at a later time, or if, for instance, this application is taking longer to put through than anticipated. Once I'm finished and happy with the information in that field, I'll continue to scroll down this pop-up window. Now I know I don't have any additional information on the application record just at this time, so I am going to leave those fields alone. Although in principle, we certainly recommend the more information you already have available on a person or on a loan that they're already putting through, always a good idea to put in enough information to help jog your memory and make a record more robust. I'm also going to add the loan amount required down here under the loan details section because I do know that loan amount already. And because this loan has not yet been submitted, obviously there won't be any commission details and the application timeline won't be relevant just yet. So I'm simply scrolling back up this pop-up window here to validate the information that I have entered. And once I'm happy with all the details that I have put through, I go ahead and click Save. Now, when I do that, a couple of things are going to happen on the screen. The application will save, and you'll see that because a green pop-up message appears at the top center of the screen telling me it's been created and actually giving me a link to access that record. That pop-up message eventually disappears, as you just saw on my screen. So as an alternative to that pop-up message as a way to open the application, I can simply navigate down here. This is the application section under the related tab of Brian Sample's client record page. If I click into that application right now, I'll be taken to the application page. So that's a brief glimpse into the application record we've just created for Brian Sample. Now, to develop this application further, you would click into the Process Checklist tab from this application page and go ahead and work through each of those broker tools available. They'll ring familiar to you if you've been using sales tools for a while. It does appear that we have combined both the NCCP tools and the sales tools functionalities all in the one list. So you can work through each of these tools in whatever fashion is appropriate to your business operating rhythm. Or if you're a little bit newer to Podium and do want some more guidance, you can refer to the Podium Quick Guide, which prescribes a method or an order in which you should use each of these tools prior to submitting an application through to lodgement. So that's what an application record looks like. It would look exactly the same if you were to create an application record from the Applications tab as opposed to from a client's record page. I'll quickly just show you for comparison. Hopefully you'll be pleased to find that the process is almost exactly identical. So rather than going through the Clients tab, I've clicked on the Applications tab on the left-hand side menu, and you can see that there is a new button to the top right of the screen. So I'll go ahead and click that. And again, you can see the same pop-up windows appear here. You're prompted to select exactly what type of application you are wanting to add to your system. So you select one, you click Next, and then you go ahead and fill in the identical fields that you had filled if you were creating an application from the Clients tab in this same pop-up window. Difference being here that you can see there's no automatic population of the client name field and that you do need to manually search for the client for whom you're wanting to add an application record. Other than that, the process is absolutely identical, and once you click Save, it will open up the application record you have just created. So that's the process for creating an application record in the Reimagine Podium platform. To help you check your knowledge and understanding of that process, as promised, I am going to run a quick poll. It will appear on the screen for the next half a minute to a minute. So have a go. It's a multiple choice question. Please select the correct answer. We'll review the answer shortly afterwards and wrap this webinar up. All right, I hope everybody had a chance to check their knowledge using that quick poll. So the answer to the question, from which two areas can application records be created in Podium, is from the Related tab in the Client record, or as you saw just moments ago, also from the Applications tab. That wraps it up for the simulated webinar on creating application records in the Reimagine Podium platform. Now that you've finished watching this webinar, you can now go ahead and try mimicking the process yourself in the How to Create an Application Record eLearn. You'll find this towards the bottom half of the Podium Reimagine training homepage. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you at the next webinar.